There we are. Okay, welcome everyone for the fantastic event today, which is Women Leadership through the P3O Lens. And today, my name is Aina. I'm going to be your facilitator and your guide of this event, which is, by the way, dedicated and in honor of the International Women's Day, which is on March 8th, but since March 8th is on Friday, and I assume that everyone is eager to do their own stuff rather than participate in the event. So we're just doing it 2 days later, but International Women's Day definitely is an honor for our the PMO community. And yes, let's just celebrate the incredible progress that women around the globe have achieved. And that's why we have global panelists from different parts of the world. And that's why we shared where we are calling from, where we are located. And we also have international audience. And also, whoever just joined, feel free to share your location with us on the chat. And what to expect today. So when we were thinking about this event, we imagined, like, the rich mosaic of different voices. I think, Huria, you will appreciate because you are from Morocco and Morocco is very famous, but it's mosaic, and everyone else, I hope you will follow the analogy. So a mosaic of different voices, stories, viewpoints, backgrounds, and yes, I encourage everyone to get involved in the conversation, and let's make it productive and memorable today. And I would like to ask the panelists to introduce themselves in 30 seconds. And Debra, you are the first on this poster, so feel free to tell us what you want us to know about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Debbie Robinson. I am currently a project management consultant at Global Project Partners. I am based in San Diego, and I also am currently serving on the board of trustees for Cure CADASIL, which is a patient advocacy group in rare diseases. And I am currently also serving as their treasurer, as well as their project management operation advisor.
Nice, thank you very much, Debbie, and we are very pleased having you today as our panelist. Anara, you are the next.
Thank you. My name is Anara Asylbekova. I'm originally from Kazakhstan. I live now in Dubai, UAE. I'm a portfolio manager for the international company. And also I'm a creative facilitator for Agile Mentor Me. We do the creative workshop. We deliver the knowledge through the fun. And also me and my family, we have wrote a little PM book for the kids, introducing project management for the kids starting from age 5.
Wow, that's exciting, Anara. I feel like we definitely need another session dedicated just to that. And thank you very much, Angelica.
Thank you, Aina, for this invitation, and thank you everyone for being here. It's an honor to be able to share our knowledge and experience with all this audience. I'm Angelica Larios from Mexico City. I'm the founder and CEO of Alacontec, which is a consulting company based on managing projects. I am a PMP and a doctor in strategic leadership for Regent University in Virginia. And I'm a part of the board of the ILA, International Leadership Association. And I've been involved with PMI on the local chapter. I was the first female president. And I've been involved with different global committees as a volunteer. So great to share with you my experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, it's an achievement to be the first female president. All right, Tiffany, you're the next.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I agree with Angelica. It's a great privilege to be here with you today and hear so many wonderful voices and the males that support the women on our panel today. So my name is Tiffany Odutoye. I hail from Baltimore, Maryland, and currently I am serving as a board advisor for nonprofit organizations and really proud of the work that they're doing in terms of providing technical support, project management, and AI training to educational institutions in Africa as well as here in the United States. So really promoting that education among our youth. I'm the founder of Virtual Partner that started quite some time ago and has morphed, took a pause, and now I am back in 2024, again, as I mentioned, as a board advisor, a master coach for CWC, the Career Winners Circle, as well as supporting healthcare organizations that are particularly interested in promoting health and wellness here in the United States. So glad to be here with you and to share some insights, particularly around talent and belonging.
Thank you very much, Tiffany. Also very glad to have you here with us today. And Candida, so last but not least, please share.
Wow, I am just so honored listening to all of you and all the backgrounds. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this, esteemed group. My name is Candida Tocci. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I am a project management consultant within the city of Calgary here. So government, municipality, and in the project management consulting services. I have been here working in project management for over 20 years. I was president, just finished a 4-year presidency on the PMI Southern Alberta chapter board, and now I sit as their past president. And I am president and founder of the Women In. And Women In is a group that celebrates women, lift each other up, support each other. Our motto is to build a future of equal opportunity for all. And so that we really want to celebrate everyone and really been excited. We just turned 4 years old in February.
Wow, happy birthday. And I'm so eager to start digging deeper in your biography because we have such fantastic panelists today, as all of you could hear right now. I am so excited to raise my first question. And Debbie, you are going to be first. And what we know about you, you have some very extensive biopharma experience. And what I would like you to share with us, how this specific experience influenced your leadership approach, and also how we're able to foster innovation and strategic alignment in your field.
Thank you for the question. And yes, I've had over 20 years of project management experience in both large corporate, large biotech companies, as well as mid-size and small startup companies. And so definitely as I have navigated those particular companies, I definitely, there are 3 areas for my bioscience experience that definitely have influenced my leadership, especially as I transition now into a consultory role at many of the mid-sized to small biotech companies in the San Francisco area. And so the 3 areas that I want to talk about is cross-functional collaboration, risk management and resilience, and strategic vision and global alignment. As a leader in of drug development teams, I have definitely helped coordinate the efforts from the numerous functions that make up the drug development team. So that can be representatives from clinical, regulatory, manufacturing, preclinical, safety, And so what is important and what I've learned over my years is that it is important to foster collaboration and the understanding and importance of bringing a diverse perspective of into the drug development paradigm, because this ultimately is what is going to drive innovation. It is important that all voices are heard and that everyone on your team contributes. Next then, from a risk management and resilience perspective, as a biotech leader, we have to help our teams navigate projects that have a great deal of uncertainty and carry risk. And so as a leader, I definitely have learned to help teams navigate this uncertainty and foster the resilience, especially if a risk that we've identified occurs. And now the team is going to have to pivot. And so it is important then to kind of help that team navigate by encouraging adaptability. And also do not be afraid to be a risk taker, because in some instances with some of these very novel compounds that we are nurturing along through the drug development paradigm, the only way that you are going to ensure innovation is by being a risk taker. And then lastly, from a strategic vision and goal alignment perspective, one of the things that I have always brought to my teams and what I continue to bring into my consultancy practice is that strategic mindset to help these organizations with goals for these innovative initiatives. So I've always have started with the end in mind, and to help teams then set a very clear line of sight of how we're going to get to the next milestone, how we're going to get through to the next phase of development. And as teams then set their goals, ensure that team members understand what their efforts and how their efforts are going to ultimately contribute to the broader strategic objectives. And that is ultimately how we can continue to drive some of these very innovative pipelines through to help the many patients that are in need.
Thank you very much, Debbie. That was definitely very tactical, which I like the most, not just high-level theory. And I also want to emphasize the risk-taking, because as a coach, I work with many leaders who kind of claim themselves as leaders, but when it comes to the risk and to the responsibility, people try to hide and make someone else take it. So that was very much important to emphasize. And our dear global audience, if you have any questions, feel free to type them on the chat to the specific panelists or to everyone. Also feel free to collaborate with each other, especially if something resonates to you when one of the panelists is speaking. And again, let's make it as collaborative as possible. But meanwhile, I will choose my next victim, who is Tiffany. And Tiffany, let's speak about diversity and inclusion with you. So we already noticed that you have a very human side and human approach, even when you talk to us. So my question to you would be, how do you operationalize, oh my gosh, what is my tongue today? How do you operationalize your vision of humanity in the workplace into tangible practices and strategies, and especially focusing on diversity and inclusion?
Oh, thank you so much. That's a very interesting question with a lot of tenets. I'll try to keep it really simple. There are three things for me, and there's an acronym that I've adopted, and it's NOBLE. 1, just be nice. 2, be observant. 3, be present. Be kind, be principled. That B. L, listen, learn, and then lean in. And then E, encourage and elevate. So that's the first concept for me, is around this concept about being noble, a way of being. The other is a trust model, the 3 C's of trust, character, communication, and capability. And then the last one seems really, really simple, and that's about showing sincere personal interest. So we take these three concepts or constructs and we just make them really simple. How does it show up in our everyday life? This isn't something that I think you can put on and take off. It's not like clothing. I believe that these principles have to be the way that we live and lead. And when I think about this whole thought of what people need in the workplace right now, more than ever, humans want to and need to feel connected. So this thought about connectedness, those three areas that I just mentioned, really is a way that I try to create that in the workplace. 39% of people surveyed said that they feel their greatest sense of connectedness in the workplace, while the rest say that that's at home. So then what does this look like in our workplace? On an individual level, when we think about our one-on-one connections with one another, you know, I try to show up and I use the expression very actively. I'm a no judgment zone work friend. So when we're having conversation, you know, when we talk about psychological safety, now you have permission to innovate, ideate, share your ideas, speak your truth, and not feel that I am there to edit you. Now I'm here to help to be this canvas that you want to write on. And I believe that that does help foster this sense of belonging and that they have a work friend. This other thing about permission to make mistakes. And I believe that this is critically important, especially as we think about the differences in the way women and men communicate, the way that communication happens across the spectrum of diversity. People of color may and from other time zones may communicate very differently. So this sort of permission for people to be and for people to make mistakes, they need to be able to step into that and not feel that there's going to be this penal system for errors, right? So creating this spirit of just culture, I think enables people to show up and feel that they really fit in and connect. And then when I speak my truth with my colleagues, I try to do it in a way that is dignified and honors who I know them to be. Now I'll just go and just pivot again to like practical things to create a sense of belonging with my colleagues, right? So instead of just starting a meeting with a straight agenda, it's the warm and fuzzy. I think it's okay to introduce that into the workplace and allow people a few moments to breathe and to talk about what's really happening in their life and their day. When we do those get to know you sessions when you're starting in a workplace, I believe that it's okay to get to know about people's backgrounds, their likes, their dislikes, what it is they're really good at, what it is that they're passionate about, the names of their kids and spouses. These are some very, very practical ways that we can create this sense of safety, friendship, collaboration in the workplace. And finally, when I think about showing up with my colleagues, it's not just when I want something. Hey, I take those walks with my colleagues. You want to take a 15-minute walk? I'm there. I'm the ear to listen. I want to know what's going on in their lives. When we start meetings, you know, do we need to take a pause and honor what's happening in someone's life? And then, of course, giving people sort of the opportunity to have diversity of thought in a group space, right? So, you know, my voice doesn't have to be the final or the authority in the room, but co-creating and being able to collaborate in a space and think openly about things, I think is a way for us to really create this sense of belonging where people feel they fit in, where they have a work friend, and where they feel a sense of connectedness and connection in the workplace.
Totally agree. We see people nodding. Thank you very much, Tiffany. And what I want to point out, you mentioned the phrase, we need to lean in. And there is a great book called Lean In, written by Sheryl Sandberg. So if someone hasn't read it yet, I highly recommend to read. And Sheryl addresses the differences between female and male style. So very interesting book to read. And I also want to acknowledge, Tiffany, when you said that we have a different communication style and we need to allow and adapt to this. I remember 9 years ago when I just moved to Canada, my first 3 years, people called me terrifying. And I knew that my accent, which was a bit heavier 9 years ago, from Slavic countries was terrifying. But what I discovered 2 or 3 years ago, that when I communicate with people, I look straight in the eyes and I don't blink, which is a typical Ukrainian, Russian, or like any Slavic habit, and we even don't notice that. But people find it something like, the stereotypical like Russian spy, etc. So I worked out of that, trying to make sure that I don't terrify people. I just want to be friendly and work with them. But yes, it's very important to be addressed. So Candida, I'm moving on to you. And my question to you is, you definitely have many years of leadership experience and you have many practical advice, but choose maybe 2 or 3. What would you give to like women who are just starting their career in P3O roles or any other leadership role to navigate and break through the gender barriers effectively?
Great, thank you. Oh my gosh, and I'm just loving all the discussion because it's just so consistent with, what I've been saying. I'm hearing the buzzwords resilience and, just that consistency. So for me, it is where I think you really have to build yourself. What does leadership mean to you? How do you build yourself? I'm a strong Italian woman leader with passion and gusto. And I'm not for everybody, but I'm enough. And so you have to start building that confidence and that trust within yourself. And that was a lot of the premise with Women In. Women IN means women first within yourself. What is it that you need to do? How do you become strong? How do you become sort of resilient to all the things, all the balls that are juggling? You're a mother, you're a sister, you're an employee, you're that. So how do you become sort of that person that needs to show up to all these different things that are coming at you and coming at you fast? We're in such a fast-paced world right now, right? And then Women In, and somebody said to me, oh, you're like LinkedIn. Yes, you linked into all this community. The power of community is just, so powerful that you build the people around you that you really want to learn from, or you want that support, or you want that understanding. And then of course, Women In within the community. How do you give back, right? Where is that part where you give back, where you really want to either share your skills, share your knowledge, give back on a volunteer perspective, do you want to be that change maker? Do you want to, make the world a better place? Like, how big do you want this to be? So, for me, some of the things is just really, how are you building yourself? How are you building your conference, knowing that this is how you're going to know your own truth, right? Because like I said, you're not going to be for everyone. And, you really want to be in that acceptable, type of realm, because not everybody's going to agree with you. And sometimes we tend to focus on more the people that don't agree with you than the support that you have, right? And then of course, this is really building your community, building and understanding what are the areas. And I get involved in so many things because I really want to understand how I build that holistic me so that I am better for not only myself, but everybody else, right? So I do lots of volunteering. I get, I want to learn, become curious. Being curious is so, so important, right? And, and I call it the people issues, right? So understand what that conflict resolution is. Everybody comes in with different lenses. Everybody learns differently. You have visual people, you have audio people, you've got people that are tactical. And these are the people in your team, in your world, right? So when something is not going your way, you need to take that step back and going, okay, how am I listening to understand? Where's that active listening, right? And communication is extremely, extremely important to know how you're listening, how you're communicating, taking those biases away and not being judged, right? And it's really important, like I heard that, permission to fail. I think that organizations have to really start looking at allowing people that failure is good, right? I'm starting to do a presentation on ready to launch, permission to fail. And when someone says you failed and you turn around and you go, is that a bad thing? You're saying that like it's a bad thing, because the lessons learned are so important. And when we talk about the P3O, we are really looking at the different levels, like portfolio, that strategy, right? Who has that accountability? Who is saying what we need to do to our program, right? That strategic alignment, that benefits realization. Where's the ROI? Why are we doing this? What are the benefits? What's the value? And that we really understand on how we're contributing to that, to the projects, of course. How are we ensuring we're delivering projects the right way that we know how, and how that aligns to our strategic priorities? What are we measuring against? How are we really strategically working? How are you looking at yourself, with that strategic lens on how you're conducting yourself? And with that, because we're in such a fast-paced world, faster than ever, in the next 15 years, I did a presentation at a conference on the future focused leader. In the next 15 years, we'll see more change than we've ever seen in our lifetime. So to become resilient is, what strategic foresight are you putting in yourself, in your project? What is coming down the road? What's coming down the road in 15 years? And how are you working backwards in order to become resilient? Because it's really important, 16% of us still live in the past. I've always done it that way. That's how I'm going to do it. Where the other 68% is today. We live in 90 days, right? Where if you see people's schedules after 3 months, they're free, right? But we live in this sort of 90-day format. And then the other 16% is, what's happening? Where's your futuristic thinking? Because our whole lives, and that's what I loved about project management and became so passionate and almost infatuated with, is that it's decision-making theory. From the minute we get up, we're making decisions. So it's really building that whole foundation for yourself on how you really look at yourself holistically. Like I said, first within yourself, then within your community, and then how you're giving back to learn, right? Because that future failing is, your challenges become opportunities. So give yourself permission to fail.
Thank you very much, Candida. Your speech really resonates with me, but what also touched my heart when you spoke about the confidence. And just yesterday, I've been listening an interview with one of the female archaeologist professor, and one of the interviewer asked her, like, you are so confident. How can you remain this confidence? And she replied, I don't have another choice, because there are so many people in the world who are doubting me every single day, so I cannot afford this luxury to doubt myself. And this really resonates with me. So we are already 30 minutes in our time. Oh my God, time flies so quickly. So I will stop taking focus for myself and move on to Angelica. And my question to you, since you mentioned to us that you became the first female president, you definitely have good business management and negotiation skills. So could you share with us some tips, and also how using the skills help you to advocate and implement the diversity within your projects?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Aina. Well, as I was listening to your question, a couple of stories come to my mind. And the thing is, I've been around project management since more than 20 years ago. And being the head of my company, being a woman, I believe this is related to your mission, vision, values, and purposes. So one of the values of my company is to have diversity in the projects, diversity of my employees, and no preference for either gender, because it's equal. I mean, I try to focus on the performance and capacities, the skills and abilities, rather than if it's male, female, or whatever. But this recalls me a couple of examples in the past when I used to work for other companies. I used to run projects, and it's a shame that still are many macho culture. For example, in Mexico, I used to work for projects in the north of the country, and some time ago, one customer of mine told me, "What are you telling me?" I was the manager, the project manager for the project, and he said, "Why are you telling me this? I mean, you should be in the kitchen." And I was like, "Oh my God!" So this idea that women are not capable and should not be in professions is still a challenge we have to overcome. So when I started my company, I have been in my own company since 12 years now. I decided that this woman and the diversity was important for me, and I was going to defend it. So as the years came, and I had an opportunity to begin business with another prospect, and they explained what they wanted. We were making arrangements to have an appointment with them, and suddenly the assistant called us and said, "Excuse me, I have a question. Are women coming to the meeting?" And we said, "Yes." Why? I mean, thinking that I was the head of the company, woman, and my project manager for that specific line of business was a woman as well. And they said, "No, because we have some issues. People here are very rude, and men doesn't want to have women in the table while we are negotiating." So it was very, very rude. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And I was discussing with my associate, and I said, "Well, listen, this is not something negotiable. I mean, you mentioned how I negotiate, but sometimes you don't have to negotiate, because sometimes these are not negotiables for you. So if this is one of your values and purposes, and this is what you stand for and your principles, you will not allow anybody to step over you, you know." So we have to nicely decline this business opportunity, because you have to balance objectives of what are your goals and your purpose on financials, economics, but on the other hand, what is the value that you gave to yourself and to your people. So if you don't respect yourself and you don't respect other women, how is the position of me to be the head of a company, you know? So I couldn't accept that business, and I declined. So I don't know if this is a good example or not, but the message here is that you have to be true to yourself and your values and your principles.
Absolutely, and great message, Angelica. When you spoke about the kitchen, I have an example almost from 20 years ago, when I was studying at university and also got my first job as an engineer. And so during the lunchtime, men started putting like raw potato, cucumbers, tomatoes on my desk. And I was like, what's going on? So it appeared that there were like few women except me, but they were hired as engineers, but they were actually like cooking and serving real men engineers. So their responsibility was to cook lunch for them. And I hate cooking. So if there is anything else, I would probably do it because it was my first job. I was young and I would be scared, but cooking, no. So I said no. So first people were surprised, and mainly women, because they are like, why don't you cook? And I told you I wasn't hired for that. And so men engineers, they told, okay, if you don't want to do female job, do the engineering job, which I was hired for to do. So they actually started teaching me how to do the job. And when I was graduated, it appeared that the chief engineer was very much impressed by my answer. So I was graduated when I was 22 years old, and the next few months I've been promoted to the senior manager or director position. The hierarchy in Ukraine a little bit different, but it was a level like between senior manager to director. So be true to yourself and say no if you don't feel like. Helps us a lot in our career. And Anara, thank you very much for waiting for so long. Finally, I have a question to you. You mentioned that you have an experience with digital transformation. So my question is going to be related to that. So how do you ensure that the strategic vision and operational demands of P3O are met while championing a culture of innovation and agility during the digital transformation process?
Yeah, thank you a lot. That's the great question. And we're having amazing discussion. Thank you a lot for all of your inputs that you're giving here on the table. About an operational and a strategic and innovation. It's kind of a different arms that you need to juggle and you need to balance, right? So it's just only today I've heard from one of the colleagues saying that, hey, how can we balance our work and our life? I'm saying the same way how you're juggling your tactical projects and your strategic projects. So you have on the one arm all the technical debt that you need to close and all the projects related to that. But at the other hand, you have all the innovations that you need to implement in order to boost your business and bring new opportunities for the business. So it's always a matter of how much you want to invest here and there and how you want to manage all of them. At the end of the day, you have a goal to deliver strategic deliverables, right? You need to boost the business. You need to support it with all the strategic or digital transformation that you're doing. So you need to understand that you need to close the technical debt just to be here now, and maybe for the next 5 years, you'll be capable to do the work. And then you need to think also about how you're gonna improve it and what kind of new innovations or new things that you need to provide for your company to support it as well. And separately talking about agile, it's the way of thinking and adapting and understanding that what you have thought about a year ago might not be valid today. And it's better to fail fast and then rethink all the ideas that you are planning to do and be prepared for the new thing. And that's very kind of, today it's a big discussion because, for example, if the company have set up the strategy about 2 years back, is it still valid now? With all the AI coming and all the innovations, are you prepared? Right? So you need to look into your strategy and reconsider, are you ready to this disruption? Have you done everything that you possibly can? And is your business resilient to this disruption or not? So you need to be agile and you need to be flexible. You need to come to your strategy and relook it all the time. You need to look into your portfolio and think, maybe some of the projects you don't need to do anymore. Maybe it's a brave step just to close it and then look into those that you need to initiate now. So tomorrow you'll not be 10 steps behind of your competitors in the market. So it's a very difficult question. There is no blueprint, but it's always good just to look at it from the fresh eyes, from the fresh angle, and reassess it and reconsider.
Thank you very much, Anara. So we have 20 more minutes for this amazing session, and now it's an open floor. So our audience, if you have any specific questions, feel free to raise them on a chat to any panelists or to all of them. But meanwhile, I will ask my question, which is related to the mentorship program, because I believe it's very important to pass our knowledge to those who are just started their career. So the question to all panelists, what structures or strategies would you recommend for mentorship programs to cultivate future female leaders? And since our focus is P3O Lens, so within P3O Lens effectively. Yeah, Tiffany?
It's interesting that you bring up the subject of mentoring. I have two thoughts on that. One, as we start thinking about what the data is telling us between the disconnect of those that are not just skilled in project management and in the P3O office, but those that are certified and moving up the trajectory. So there is a gap between women and men, not just in this country, but that gap becomes a chasm in other countries. So I think in terms of mentoring, it's important for us to think about encouraging certification. Thinking about, since we know that standard PMOs and EPMOs operationally have changed dramatically in the past 2 years, where agile practices are more common. Are we encouraging, more training and upskilling around transformation, organizational transformation, which are some of the skills that are going to be critical in an EPMO or in a P3O environment? So again, as we're thinking about mentoring, are we looking at the women who are high potentials, not just currently are already in the space, but who are we nurturing through the space, encouraging certification? And then the second piece that I wanted to mention is just the shift, not just from mentoring, but to sponsorship. And as we think about the dynamics of people in the workplace, the chasm for women, the gulf there's for women, and then within that, there are women that are Black and brown. And there's a chasm there in terms of as we think about leading in that space. So I think there's a shift between mentoring and a need for sponsoring these particular diverse groups. And I think individuals like us, we're in a prime space as we think about recruitment, as we think about retention, as we think about training and upskilling in our mentoring programs. Again, the focus is on getting them not just skilled, but certified, and then sponsorship, creating a space for them to lead.
I really love your answer, Tiffany, and probably you guys noticed that I started writing down something because there are so many mentorship programs, like PMI provides mentorship programs, and the other organizations, and even for us in the PMO community, we are thinking about the mentoring program, but sponsorship is something what I definitely heard, but I haven't seen much. So I was writing down together with my partners in the PMO community and actually discuss if we can do something for this sponsorship. Thank you. Any other panelists who'd like to answer?
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. I really loved an idea of sponsorship, and not in terms of how financially you can support in the mentorship, but how can you support women in your office and bring them into the table and make their work and effort and their talent visible? Because in most of the cases, we do the work, we do the excellent work, right? But it might not be visible or it might not be recognized. And how you would support your colleague in the office and really embrace it. And so when they exit the room, someone would be speaking about how amazing they are, how great work they do. And then eventually it will give them an opportunity and a promotion and recognition in the office, in the organization.
Yeah, I really like that answer. That's really good. And just to kind of, add to that, I think, when we look at the P3O, right, it's different levels of this whole project management world, right, from portfolio to program to project. And part of that is really, looking at as things change and how more representation we would like at the table on all lenses, right, of diversity, inclusion, and belonging. It's also looking at that governance, right? I think that where the governance at itself is starting to change on how that's delivered from a patriotic type of, this is your job description, this is what you have to do, and if you don't do it, there's punitive results, right? To maybe more of a matriarch where, celebrating International Women's Day is really what women bring, is sort of that more, empathetic type of listening, more of, how we're making those decisions, how we're organizing things, just sort of taking that step back. And again, really saying, okay, well, this didn't work this time. How are we going to do it? So just kind of, bringing both of the governance styles together, where before it was very dictatorial and, you have to do this, and it just kind of limited you, and it didn't really allow for that innovation and people to be creative and to kind of feel that they're safe in, a space that they can contribute. And wow, like you can only imagine the great different ideas that can probably, produce success that eliminates all this rework and, things that were done in the past that just didn't work. So, we're in such an amazing time right now that we shouldn't be afraid of change. We shouldn't be afraid of AI, but how do we embrace it? How do we bring it all together?
And Debbie, you were raising your hand.
Yeah, probably just one more thing to add is that also do not be afraid to go within your own internal companies, and if there is a leader that that would be willing to mentor you as you go through your development and make it part of your development plan. So that I'm gonna ask this leader in this company to mentor me for 1 year, and these are my objectives. Just so that it's just another way of getting your work, your project work seen more broadly in the organization.
Thank you, Debbie. Angelica?
Thank you. I was just to add on what Candida was talking about our female leadership, because I know we are short of time and probably we are going to discuss all of the questions that we had, but it's important for us to understand that a woman has a different type of leadership, and we should be proud of our natural ways, such as be tender, caring, collaborative, supportive, and so on. So I would encourage women to continue doing that style of leadership, but also sometimes in my experience and also in my research, I've seen that a woman lack of kind of confidence in themselves while trying to apply to other new positions, new jobs. And please trust in yourself and believe that you can, because I believe this is a part of the diversity equity that we need to earn our places, because men are they have their high esteem very high, self-esteem very high. So they apply for jobs, they believe they can, even when they are not prepared. But women start having doubts, self-confidence issues. And I'm very confident that we have everything that is required. We have plenty of qualities, natural qualities, just for being women. So my message here will be, go for it, believe in yourself, and try to achieve everything.
Thank you, ladies. So we have 2 more questions. I believe we will have time to answer just one, but we'll see. If we don't have time, we will reply to the second question in the individual message. But the first question is, how do you deal with strong negative vibes from key players that a project will fail, even to the point of saying that the project is doomed? Anyone?
Yeah, I think practically it's a good question, because it brings up a discussion. Should not be afraid of that. And it's good to look into all the arguments why someone thinks that the project is failing. Do we really don't see some of the factors, or we are taking it too negatively? So it's a good challenge that we need to take, and we need to look and analyze all the risk and the issues happening there. And yeah, if we haven't thought about all the risk that might be there behind, we haven't looked at it. Let's check it now. Let's think about the mitigation plans or the issues, or maybe, yes, if we are really failing on it, let's accept it. And do we need to close it then, or should we jump on it and firefight it, right? It all depends on what's failing, why it's failing, and why we think it's failing. So it's always good to challenge. It's always good to have a discussion. In the discussion, you will find the truth. We just should not be afraid of that discussions.
I just love it. And I love kind of joining what you say, because we're on the same way. Yeah, and I think it's just really looking at the project and what you said, what's failing, and is it losing a lot of resources, talent, skills, maybe re-kicking off the project, right? Saying, okay, and do those lessons learned, right? Lessons learned are just at the end. Look at those lessons learned, doing lessons learned on what are the roadblocks? What's stopping this? What do we need to keep doing? What do we need to do better? What is that gap there that's not letting it move forward? And really getting all the responsible people at the table as well. The project sponsor, have they been communicated to? Are you managing to those risks? Have risks occurred? What about those response plans, right? What are you using for mitigation? Is your executive team supporting you on this? So, it's really just kind of, doing a bit of a stop and saying, okay, let's do a lessons learned on this.
And Tiffany, you were waving.
Yeah, I agree with everything that has already been said. And if you know me, I'm a big proponent of data and database decisions, right? So if we are failing, I agree. The big question is why, and what is the data telling us? Where we need to be able to diagnose and know where to look, right? So if it's market conditions, and so there's no need for this any longer, is there an MVP we can get out of this that does speak to the current conditions, right? So being able to pivot. But again, I believe that we should encourage our teams to not just go by the gut, but what's the data telling us? And do we have a solution in sight? And maybe as was already mentioned, the solution is that we close out and we pivot and rethink our strategy and our big why.
Thank you, ladies. And let's try to quickly answer the final question of today, which is, what are the 3-4 basic things a woman leader needs to bear in mind before setting up a PMO consulting firm?
So I think the first thing is just really understanding the roles, understanding what are those key objectives, the strategies, what is it that your PMO is supposed to do, right? So, and how does that align with the strategic priorities that are there? And from there, once you start to build this area and understand the objectives and knowing what the expectations are, so that when you're communicating, people are understanding what that communication is about and how they need to communicate that. And so I think as a woman, you start to use a lot of those great innate skills that we have, like how we organize things, how we talk to people, how we're more, taking that step back. Because I really like what I heard, there's a different style with men and women for the most part, where men are more, direct and sometimes that just doesn't work. And especially in this day and age, when you're getting more people coming in with a lot of, emotional, that mental health has to really, really be looked at, because everybody's coming in with different priorities and different things that impact the way that they show up.
Tiffany?
Yeah, I was just going to add, right now the PMI has merged with Global PMO, and there is a body of knowledge built around the discipline of running a practice, a PMO practice, or becoming a PMO consultant. So the first thing that I would suggest is, if you were thinking about moving from an established framework where you have all the roles covered in an organization to a consultancy creating your own, well, you have to kind of model, you still need that infrastructure, right? So design your op model as an organization, be really crystal clear about that, but also align yourself with PMO global, that global alliance. And if necessary, go through that framework that they've identified that would make a successful consultancy or PMO consultant. So I would suggest that, you know, we look at our established bodies of knowledge and then build our op models around those.
Yep, and I would add probably just one more thing on top of what Tiffany says, since I have myself shifted to working for a company into now a consultancy practice, is that definitely bringing the strength of the practices and the standards. But then as you set up your consultancy practice, you want to also be crystal clear on the value that you will bring to that organization, because you're a consultant now coming in to help them understand what an MPV is going to be for that project. And you have to now be able to sell that PMO as a value driver for the organization.